The sun had just cracked open the sky, painting it orange like someone spilled Gatorade across the horizon. Birds were chirping like they had signed a contract with Starbucks. And in the middle of this picture-perfect suburban morning, a man in his mid-30s decided today was the day he was finally going to become a runner. Now, let me tell you, this wasn't a professional athlete. This was a guy who had spent more time running late to work than running on a track. But today, laced-up sneakers squeaky clean, sweatband tied across his forehead like a Rambo wannabe, he believed destiny had called him. He stretched in ways that looked more like interpretive dance than fitness. Neighbors peeked through blinds, wondering if this was exercise or some kind of exorcism. And then, boom, he launched himself onto the pavement. For the first 50 feet, he was unstoppable. He felt the wind on his face, imagined motivational music blasting in the background, and thought, wow, I might actually be built for this. But life has a funny way of reminding us that the ground is undefeated. His toe caught the tiniest crack in the sidewalk. He soared forward like Superman, except without the cape. His arms pinwheeled, his knees bent awkwardly, and then, thud. He kissed the pavement. Silence. Birds stopped chirping. Somewhere, a lawn sprinkler went off, as if applauding his collapse. Lying there, he thought, well, maybe cardio isn't for everyone. But that's the thing about falling, it isn't the fall that defines you. It's what you do next. And this, my friends, is where his real story begins. Because in every stumble, there's a punchline. And in every punchline, there's a lesson. And today's? You fall, you stand up stronger. Flat on the ground, our man discovered something shocking. Sidewalks are made of concrete. And concrete does not negotiate. His palms were scraped, his knees stung, and his pride was bruised harder than his body. For a second, the thought crossed his mind, I could just roll under that bush and live here forever. Nobody would ever know. But then, footsteps. An older gentleman power walking by with 2 tiny dogs stopped to check on him. You okay, champ? He asked with the tone of someone who's seen this exact accident 300 times in his neighborhood. The man on the ground smiled weakly. Yeah, just practicing my flying skills. The old man chuckled, shook his head, and kept walking, muttering, happens to all of us. And right there, between the sting of embarrassment and the smirk of an old stranger, he realized something big. Falling is universal. Everyone's tripped, stumbled, crashed, or messed up at some point. It isn't about avoiding the fall. It's about laughing through the dust, standing up, and daring to keep moving. So, he pushed himself up. Wobbly, knees screaming, palms red, but standing. And when he stood, he grinned. Because sometimes victory doesn't look like finishing a marathon. Sometimes, victory is just refusing to stay down. Standing again, he took a deep breath. But what he didn't realize was that his graceful crash landing had been witnessed by more people than the Super Bowl. Across the street, a teenager eating cereal on his porch nearly spit out his Cheerios. A mom jogging with a stroller slowed down, biting her lip to stop laughing. And a group of kids on bikes circled like sharks smelling blood, pointing and giggling. Embarrassment? Oh, it was real. The man could feel his ears turning red. But then, he thought, if you can't laugh at yourself, someone else will gladly do it for you. So, instead of sulking, he bowed dramatically, as if his stumble had been part of a performance. The kids clapped and laughed harder. The mom gave him a thumbs up. And just like that, humiliation turned into comedy. Life lesson. If you can own your falls, they can't own you. Humor is a shield, and sometimes, it's also a sword. So, he tightened his sweatband, took another deep breath, and kept running. Not smooth, not fast, not pretty. But moving forward, and that's what mattered. As he jogged on, his brain started its favorite sport, overthinking. Inner critic. Wow, you look ridiculous. Who starts running in their 30s? People half your age are sprinting like gazelles, and you're out here looking like a penguin with shin splints. But then, another voice popped up, one he hadn't heard in years. The coach. Not a real coach, but the voice inside that refuses to quit. The coach said, penguin or not, you're moving. Every step forward is further than yesterday. You don't need to be fast, you just need to finish. He laughed out loud at himself, startling a squirrel. Because the truth was, life is just like running. Your brain will always have 2 voices. The one that tells you to quit, and the one that tells you to keep going. And whichever one you feed, that's the one that wins. So, he picked up the pace. His arms pumped. His feet smacked pavement. He wasn't Usain Bolt, but he wasn't giving up either. As his breathing grew heavier, his mind wandered back to the last time he had run this hard, middle school gym class. He could still hear Coach Thompson's whistle piercing the air. Run laps. No excuses. The younger version of him had hated every second. He always finished near last, legs burning, classmates passing him like he was standing still. Back then, he thought being slow meant being weak. He thought falling behind meant being a failure. And those old memories had kept him from trying for years. But now, as an adult, scraping his knees on the sidewalk and still running anyway, he realized the truth. Nobody remembers your finish time. They only remember if you quit. Falling back then had felt like the end of the world. But falling today felt like the start of a new chapter. Sometimes, it takes growing up to understand what the kid in us couldn't see. It's not about beating others. It's about beating yesterday's version of yourself. Half a mile in, sweat poured like a broken faucet. His lungs felt like someone had swapped them for 2 paper bags. His legs? Noodles. Overcooked noodles. And then, the temptation arrived, the convenience store on the corner. Its air-conditioned glow, neon soda sign, and promises of sugary snacks whispered like sirens from the sidewalk. Inner critic. Why run when you can have donuts? Why sweat when you can sip a slushie? But then, the coach chimed in, if you stop now, you'll prove the critic right. But if you keep going, you'll prove yourself right. So he kept running. Past the store. Past the temptation. Past the smell of fried chicken wafting from the deli counter. And he laughed at himself because resisting donuts might be harder than running itself. But the point was clear. Distractions are everywhere. The choice is yours. Every single step. Just as he doubted whether he could keep going, salvation arrived in the form of a kid on a bike. The boy, maybe 10 years old, pulled up alongside him. Hey, mister, he shouted, you're doing great. The man blinked. Really? Yeah, you run like my dad, when he's trying to catch the ice cream truck. The kid grinned, pedaled circles around him, then sped ahead yelling, don't quit. You got this. And just like that, the man laughed so hard he nearly tripped again. But his heart felt lighter. Because sometimes, motivation doesn't come from inside. Sometimes, it's a random cheerleader on a bike reminding you to keep moving. Something changed after that second fall. He realized running wasn't just about physical endurance. It was about emotional endurance. It was about proving to yourself that pain isn't permanent, but quitting makes regret permanent. So he slowed his pace. Not running for speed anymore, but for meaning. Each step was a declaration. I refuse to let the ground win. Neighbors started noticing. The boy on the bike cheered again from down the street. A woman watering her lawn clapped. Even the mailman saluted. And for the first time, he didn't feel like he was running alone. He felt like every step he took inspired someone else to think, if he can get up after falling, maybe I can too. Just when things were looking up, life pulled its favorite trick, the plot twist. The sidewalk, that silent enemy, struck again. This time, it wasn't a crack. It was a rogue garden hose stretched across the path. He didn't see it until it was too late. His foot snagged, body tilted, arms flailed, and boom, down he went, harder than before. This time, it hurt. His elbow throbbed, his side burned, and he wanted to scream at the universe. Neighbors gasped from porches. A delivery driver slowed his van, window down, calling, "You good, buddy?" Flat on the ground again, he thought, maybe I'm just not cut out for this. Maybe falling twice is a sign. But then, he remembered, falling twice doesn't mean failure. It means you're still trying. So, gritting his teeth, he got up again. Slower, sorer, but stronger. Sitting on the curb afterward, sipping water like it was liquid gold, he thought about the journey. He had started with confidence, fallen with embarrassment, risen with laughter, stumbled again, and finished with pride. The lesson? Falling isn't failure. Staying down is. He realized life works the same way. We fall in relationships, in jobs, in dreams. We trip over mistakes, crash into setbacks, land face first into disappointment. But if we laugh, if we stand, if we keep moving, we don't just survive. We grow stronger. And sometimes, it's not about running the perfect race. It's about running your race. At the end of the day, he stood in front of his bathroom mirror. Sweat-soaked shirt, scraped elbows, tired eyes. And yet, he smiled. Because today wasn't about running. It was about resilience. About falling twice and still rising 3 times. About laughing in the face of failure and choosing to keep moving forward. He pointed at his reflection and said, "You fell. But you stood up stronger. And that's the truth for all of us. You'll fall at some point. On the track, in life, in love, in work. People will laugh, some will doubt, others will cheer. But the real power isn't in never falling. It's in standing every single time you do. So tomorrow, when life trips you up, remember this sweaty, clumsy runner. And remember, falling isn't the end. Standing up stronger is the beginning."